Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Outer Rim Cantina. My name is Alan, and today I wanted to talk about some things I'd love to see in the new Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series that was just announced at D23 last week. I've gone through various stages of liking or being indifferent to the idea of a story about Obi-Wan during his time on Tatooine looking over Luke for almost 20 years. I've never really been a particular fan of that idea, since I've always had the mindset of, well, there's no real reason to have a story around that time Obi-Wan lived by himself in the desert and became a hermit until Luke was old enough to learn about the Jedi. Now, though, my opinion has changed since they've built up Obi-Wan's character in the Clone Wars and the new canon. I think there could be some very interesting tie-ins they could have to make a really awesome Star Wars story. I got the idea from this video thanks to both the Blast Points podcast, which if you aren't listening to them, you definitely should because they're great guys who just have fun talking about Star Wars, and the video from Star Wars Explained on what he would want from the Obi-Wan show as well. Both the podcast episode and video got me thinking of how they could make the Obi-Wan show into something important to the overall story of the galaxy during that time period. Not as important as the Skywalker saga as a whole, of course, but important to maybe shaping how we see Tatooine in A New Hope or something like that. I'd also love for the show to really dive into Obi-Wan's thoughts, inner demons, struggles, and that kind of stuff. We get to see that a bit in the Clone Wars show, but having a live-action, not specifically made for kids medium to depict what he's struggling with during that time would be awesome. I've seen some rumors floating around as well about Liam Neeson signing on for a cameo or some kind of appearance in the show. If it's more than just a few second cameo or something, that could mean that we get to see Obi-Wan reuniting with his old master and learning how to become a Force ghost and continue his Jedi training while on Tatooine. That would also give us more of a connection between not only the prequels and originals, but the animated Clone Wars show and live-action Star Wars content as well, which I always love to see those connections being made. As far as specific plot or story elements go, Ewan McGregor is still the perfect age for it to not be too difficult to have flashbacks to the Clone Wars, maybe showing him wearing the Jedi armor from the animated show, which would be absolutely awesome. They also have the chance to bring back Hayden Christensen to Star Wars by having flashbacks with the both of them during the Clone Wars and both wearing the Jedi armor. So in case you couldn't tell, I just really want to see Ewan McGregor, and it would be even better if Hayden Christensen was there too, wearing the Jedi armor from the Clone Wars, just to give us that connection between the animated side of Star Wars and the live action side of Star Wars. It would just be so cool, dude. I want it so bad. We know already that with Hayden's recent return to public life, with all of his con visits and such, that Lucasfilm is more than likely gearing him up to reprise his role as Anakin Skywalker in some capacity, and I hope that means something more than just a cameo in Episode 9. Another story idea I've seen floating around is Obi-Wan leaving Tatooine for some reason, but I'm honestly not really a fan of that. The reason he's on that planet in the first place is because he's in exile, but also watching over the next chosen one. Having him leave the planet for whatever reason would honestly just be silly. I mean, what if while Obi-Wan was gone, the Empire found out about Luke and rolled up with a Star Destroyer and just took him to the Emperor to be turned into Palpatine's next apprentice? There would be literally nothing Obi-Wan could do about it because he wouldn't be there. For the story to make any sense, the entire thing would have to take place on that one planet. Even though that might sound boring, and it honestly has to me for a long time now, they could still have lots of action if, say, they brought Darth Maul back into live action for the show. Of course, he wouldn't be the main baddie that Obi-Wan would have a physical engagement with, because we all know Maul's fate is to die by Kenobi's blade in Rebels, and this show is taking place 11 years or so before A New Hope, while Rebels takes place just a year or so before A New Hope, so having Maul be physically on Tatooine wouldn't really make any sense either. He could still show up in the series in more of a mysterious baddie who's pulling the strings type of villain, basically like Palpatine in the prequels. Since Maul's reappearance at the end of Solo when he's running Crimson Dawn, we could see him when he's establishing Crimson Dawn, but also sending out mercenaries or bounty hunters looking for Kenobi, and maybe one or two of them wind up on Tatooine, and Obi-Wan has to take care of them. There are plenty of possibilities for what they could do with this new show, because it's essentially a clean slate to explore territory that Lucasfilm hasn't really explored yet. Regardless of what we actually get to see in the series, that's just what I would particularly love to see. Qui-Gon make an appearance, or at least hear his voice as a guide to Obi-Wan, flashbacks to the Clone Wars with Obi-Wan and possibly Anakin in their Jedi armor, and Maul making trouble for the Jedi Master in some form or another. As always, I'd love to know what you think down in the comments, and what you'd want to see in the Obi-Wan series. That's all the time I've got today. I hope to see you back here in the cantina on Thursday for another Star Wars video. Until then, may the Force be with you.